This past weekend of college football was electric and was huge for the 2025 college football playoff race. There were plenty of teams who got marquee wins, avoided upsets, or played in games that weren't super relevant because they weren't college football playoff contenders. But there were a select few teams that ended up, in my opinion, having a death blow to their season. It doesn't mean the season is over quite yet, but these 6 college football playoff contenders really are now behind the 8 ball after this past weekend, and today I want to go through these 6 teams, talk about why this weekend was so bad, how it impacts their season, and where they go from here. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you didn't support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about 6 teams that may have ruined their season. Okay, so the first team I want to talk about is the Arizona State Sun Devils. Going into this year, they were projected to win the Big 12 as they brought back Jordan Tyson, brought back star quarterback Sam Leavitt, and also had their head coach Kenny Dillingham. They were fresh off of a college football playoff appearance, and it seemed like the sky was going to be the limit for ASU. Unfortunately, they've gotten off to a really weird start as they are currently 5-3 and are 5th in the Big 12. They currently sit at 3-2 in the conference and have a lot of work to do right now. They ended up having an early loss to Mississippi State, but also had wins against TCU, Baylor, Texas State, and Northern Arizona. It seems this team is night and day, as they ended up getting blown out 42-10 by Utah, before then upsetting a top 10 Texas Tech team. It seemed like ASU was finally figuring some things out here, but then this past weekend, they lost to Houston. I think Houston's a good team, and they're currently ranked, and they have a chance at making the playoff. This was a death blow to Arizona State. It seemed like the Sun Devils finally had momentum, they were getting healthier, and they were at home in this game. I don't think the Sun Devils necessarily played awful, but this loss cripples their season. Unless they win the Big 12 championship, they are not going to the college football playoff, and while they were on the fringe before, they are pretty much out now. To finish out the season, Arizona State will still have games against Iowa State, West Virginia, Colorado, and Arizona though. Last year in the month of November, the Sun Devils got hot, and it could happen again. Iowa State has sort of been in freefall mode the last couple of weeks, and West Virginia, Colorado, and Arizona are some of the bottom feeders. If Arizona State can find a way to go 9-3 and hope for a ton of chaos, there's a small chance they slip into the Big 12 championship, and if they win that, they go to the playoff. But I think this past weekend was pretty much a death blow, as Houston again is fine, but I don't think they're elite. And if it's any real indicator, I don't know if they can get through the last 4 games undefeated, or if a miracle will truly happen to them again. The second team I want to talk about is the Illinois Fighting Illini. All offseason, we heard about how the Illini were one of the elite teams in college football, and why they deserve to be ranked so high. I'm honestly a big fan of Illinois being good, and I think it's awesome when a team that's not usually very good is ranked high, but I just didn't get it. They lost their 2 best players last year in my opinion, and just because they returned a bunch of talent didn't exactly mean anything. I think Illinois is pretty much the same team that they were last year, it's just that the schedule has been a little bit harder. After starting out with wins against Duke, Western Michigan, and Western Illinois, they got skull-crushed by number 19 Indiana 63-10. That was pretty much when I knew that Illinois was sort of fraudulent, as no matter what you thought about Indiana, that was a horrific way to lose. But then they did something. They bounced back with wins over USC and Purdue, and it felt like Illinois was still a playoff contender. After fighting a little bit with Ohio State, they had found their second loss, and were now 5-2, but they still had a path. Their last 5 games were not impossible, and if they could win out, they had a legit shot at going to the college football playoff, especially if both Indiana and Ohio State really did finish in the top 3. But they blew it. This past weekend against Washington, Illinois was just not good. They ended up losing 42-25, and Luke Altmaier had 2 huge interceptions, they couldn't really get the ground game going, and the defense just fell apart. I think Washington's a pretty good equivalent to Illinois, as they're both second-tier Big Ten teams, but this felt like a death blow to their season. Illinois is now currently 5-3, and it's pretty much impossible for them to go to the playoff. You'd have to hope for Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana just to completely fall apart for them to even get to the Big Ten championship, and then even then, I'm not picking Illinois to win that game. So to me, it looks like their season is pretty much over, but at minimum, it is on life support of all life support. Luckily though, they have a pretty easy schedule, as they'll play against Rutgers, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Northwestern, and I think there's a real chance they go 4-0 down that stretch and end up with a 9-3 record. They'll end up in a decent bowl game like they were last year, and it'll pretty much just be an exact repeat of 2024. I don't think Illinois is a bad team, but I never thought they were elite, and that felt like the end of their college football playoff hopes. The third team I want to talk about is the South Florida Bulls. They were in the driver's seat in the American Conference and potentially getting the Group of 5 college football playoff bid, but now after this past weekend, it looks like things are going to be a lot more challenging for them. Going into the season, everybody thought Alex Golesh could have the Bulls take off, and that's exactly what they did. After 2 early wins against Florida and Boise State, they looked legit. A loss to Miami didn't really matter, and then from there they rallied off 4 straight wins against South Carolina State, Charlotte, North Texas, and Florida Atlantic. The North Texas win was also impressive, and they had 3 good wins on their resume. The toughest game left on the schedule would definitely be a road matchup with Memphis. The Tigers, though, had just lost to UAB, and they didn't know if they would have their starting quarterback in Brendan Lewis, so it really felt like USF was supposed to win this one. But that's not what ended up happening. In probably what was the best American Conference game of the year so far, Memphis ended up winning 34-31, and it was electric for the fans that were there at the Liberty Bowl. USF was not able to take care of business late and missed a game-tying field goal, and they now fall to 6-2 with a 3-1 record in the American. They've also fallen to 4th place in the conference, and they now have to hope for Navy, Tulane, and Memphis to start losing. The only chance they have of getting to the playoff is winning the American Conference, which I do think they have the talent to do, but they have got to find a way. They play UTSA, Navy, UAB, and Rice, and all 4 of those games should be wins. I know Navy is undefeated, but I'm picking USF to win that one. That would give them the tiebreaker over the midshipmen, but they need Tulane to lose 2 games or Memphis to lose 2 games. This loss could have been a death blow to USF's season, but they still have a path, but a lot of it's just not in their control. The 4th team I want to talk about is the Oklahoma Sooners. Going into the offseason, it looked like Brent Venables did everything possible to make his team a contender, and early on it all went according to plan. They knocked off Auburn, Michigan, Illinois State, Temple, and Kent State to get out to a 5-0 record. But what got lost in the shuffle there was that their star quarterback John Mateer ended up getting surgery. That has been a death blow to them, as since he's been injured, he has just not played well. This past weekend, he ended up having so many terrible throws they couldn't even count, and they lost the game to Ole Miss 34-26. Oklahoma fans can't say they didn't have plenty of chances in that one, and this just looked bad. Last weekend they beat South Carolina, and before that they had that weird loss with Texas, so with this game being at home, it was a great opportunity to show the college football world that Mateer was good, that Oklahoma could finish at home, and that they were still a playoff contender. Now they have their 2nd loss, the team isn't playing all that great, and they have 4 tough games to end the season. They'll go on the road to play against number 14 Tennessee, then they'll play number 4 Alabama on the road, and then they host a top 25 Mizzou team. LSU is still a difficult team no matter who is going to be the coach, and I don't know. Depending on which version of Oklahoma shows up, they could either win 2 of these games, or they could lose all 4. I would personally predict them to win 2 of the 4 with their wins coming against Mizzou and LSU, and that would put them at 8-4, and they would not be in the playoff conversation. They pretty much have to win 3 of 4 or win out if they want any shot at the playoff, and hope that Mateer's hand gets better quick. The 5th team I want to talk about is the LSU Tigers. It has been chaos over the last 24 hours in Baton Rouge as they decided to move on from Brian Kelly and pay his hefty buyout. LSU had ridiculous expectations going into the season, as after falling apart late last year, they returned Garrett Nussmeier, reloaded in the portal, and were expected to compete for a national championship. After an early road win against number 4 Clemson, it looked like LSU was on that path. They also beat Louisiana Tech, Florida, and Southeast Louisiana to get off to a 4-0 start. Then things started to fall apart though, as they lost number 13 Ole Miss on the road. But Ole Miss was really good, so people were willing to overlook it. After they beat South Carolina, it looked like things were back on the up and up, but then a touchdown loss to Vanderbilt really started the fire Brian Kelly chance. That gave them their 2nd loss, and if they wanted to go to the playoff, they really needed to win out. They'd have games against A&M, Bama, Arkansas, WKU, and Oklahoma, and this past weekend, they got plastered at home by number 3 Texas A&M. I don't know if it says more about LSU or how good Texas A&M is, but this was truly the death blow to LSU's program as they decided to fire their coach, and they've basically said we're going to start over. What's weird about it is that Brian Kelly's 3 losses are to top 10 teams right now, so I don't know. I don't think he was the guy for the job, but the expectations also might be a little bit too high. I have no clue, but either way, this was their 3rd loss, and they're pretty much eliminated from the college football playoff. Sure, maybe they could beat Bama, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, but 2 of those games were on the road, and I think LSU is headed for a 7-win season in my opinion. And last but not least, we get to my personal team, the Missouri Tigers. After back-to-back 10-win seasons, Mizzou is expected to be pretty good this year, and they seem to have the schedule that could give them a run at the college football playoff. After early wins against Central Arkansas, Kansas, Louisiana, South Carolina, and UMass, Mizzou was off to a great start, had a star running back in Ahmad Hardy, and Bo Prabula looked really solid. Unfortunately, after that, Drinkwitz lost another big game, as they lost by 3 against Alabama after a late interception, and they've been a different team since then. They ended up going on the road to Auburn and tried to lose the game multiple times, but found a way to survive in overtime 23-17. This past weekend, College Game Day was in Nashville for the Vanderbilt game, and it was pretty much the perfect storm that in all likelihood ended their college football playoff season. Bo Prabula might be out for the year, there were a ton of ridiculous penalties which cost Mizzou points, and the officiating wasn't great the other way either. And then to put the icing on the cake, Mizzou actually had a Hail Mary pass that was caught at the 3-inch yard line. You cannot make that up, as they ended up losing 17-10. They also kicked a field goal off the uprights, and it feels like Mizzou's season is falling apart. Backup kicker, third string quarterback, bad penalties, a loss to Vanderbilt, and now they're at 2 losses. They might be in the best spot of any of the teams on this list though, as they have 2 home games against Texas A&M and Mississippi State before playing Oklahoma and Arkansas. Oklahoma isn't looking great right now, the best team they play is at home, and then Mississippi State and Arkansas are near the bottom of the SEC, but with how Mizzou has played and the situation that's going on right now, it felt like this past weekend was their death blow, and had they escaped that, they'd have a chance, but for now, it feels over, and I feel like they're destined for 8-4 or 9-3. But what do you guys think? If you're a fan of one of these schools, is the season over? Who's another team that I should have put on the list? And what topic should I do next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.